Hey, everyone. You know how sometimes the news feels like it's coming from another planet? Like, you're just trying to get through your day and then, BAM! Something completely unexpected pops up on your screen. Well, today we're talking about something that hits a little closer to home. Tariffs. Yes, those pesky little things that can make your favorite imported goods more expensive. Now I know what you're thinking. Tariffs? Rachel, that sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry. But trust me, this is something you'll want to pay attention to. But hold on, because this is important. It's not just some dry economic policy. It's something that could impact your daily life in ways you might not expect. President Trump has just announced that he wants to put a 25% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. This is a big deal, folks. That means if a car is made in Germany and shipped to the US, its price could go up by a lot. Imagine the sleek, shiny cars you see on the road suddenly costing thousands of dollars more. We're talking thousands of dollars. And it's not just luxury cars, even everyday vehicles could see a price hike. This tariff isn't just about cars, though, it's much broader than that. It covers a whole bunch of stuff we get from Europe, like wine, cheese, clothes, and even machine parts. Think about your favorite bottle of French wine or that delicious Italian cheese you love. This isn't some boring economic theory, this is stuff that could affect what you see on the shelves at the store and how much you pay for it. Imagine going to the store and finding out that your favorite European products are suddenly more expensive. So, how did we get here? What led to this sudden announcement, and what does it all mean? Let's break it down. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imports, and they can be used for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're meant to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. Other times they're used as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations. In this case, the proposed tariffs are part of a larger trade dispute between the US and the European Union. Both sides have been at odds over various trade issues for years, and this is just the latest development. The impact of these tariffs could be far-reaching. Farmers, manufacturers, and even small business owners could feel the pinch. If the cost of imported goods goes up, it could lead to higher prices for consumers and potentially lower sales for businesses. And let's not forget the political implications. Trade policies can be a hot-button issue, and this move is likely to spark debate and controversy. Some people might support the tariffs as a way to protect American jobs, while others might argue that they'll do more harm than good. So there you have it. A tariff surprise that could have a big impact on our economy and our daily lives. It's a complex issue, but one that's definitely worth paying attention to. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other important topics. The White House is calling this a reciprocal tariff. Sounds fancy, right? But what does reciprocal really mean in this context? Let's break it down. Essentially, a reciprocal tariff is a tax imposed by one country in response to a similar tax imposed by another. In this case, the US believes that the European Union has been unfair in its trade practices, imposing higher tariffs on American goods. So the US is responding with its own tariff to balance things out. The Trump administration argues that the EU has been charging higher taxes on American goods for years, and this 25% tariff is just a way to level the playing field. They claim that this move is necessary to protect American industries and ensure that US businesses can compete fairly on the global stage. They say it's about protecting American jobs and businesses. By imposing this tariff, the administration hopes to encourage consumers to buy American-made products, thereby boosting domestic manufacturing and employment. The problem is things are rarely that simple. Trade relationships are incredibly complex, involving numerous factors beyond just tariffs. Economists warn that such measures can have unintended consequences. See, trade is a two-way street. When one country imposes tariffs, the other country often retaliates with tariffs of their own. This can lead to a tit-for-tat escalation, where both sides keep increasing tariffs, ultimately harming both economies. When we put up barriers to their goods, they often retaliate with barriers of their own. This can disrupt supply chains, increase costs for businesses, and lead to higher prices for consumers. That can hurt American businesses trying to sell their products overseas. Companies that rely on exporting goods may find it harder to compete in foreign markets, leading to a potential loss of revenue and jobs. So, while the idea of a reciprocal tariff might sound fair on the surface, the reality is it could end up hurting everyone involved. Trade wars rarely have clear winners, and the economic fallout can be widespread, affecting everything from small businesses to global markets. It's a delicate balance and one that requires careful consideration and negotiation.
One of the first places we see the impact of news like this is in the stock market. And let me tell you, Wall Street does not like surprises, especially when those surprises involve potential trade wars. When the news about the tariffs broke, stock prices for European car companies like Volkswagen and BMW took a nosedive. Investors get nervous when they think a company's products might become more expensive in a big market like the US.
And it wasn't just car companies. The whole market felt the jitters. See, when investors get scared, they tend to pull back, and that can have a ripple effect throughout the global economy.
As you might imagine, the EU is not exactly thrilled about these proposed tariffs. They've made it very clear they're not going to just sit back and take it. European leaders have already started talking about retaliatory tariffs on American goods. That means they could slap their own taxes on things we export to them, like American-made cars, machinery, or even agricultural products.
The EU is also considering taking the issue to the World Trade Organization, which is like the referee for international trade disputes. They can argue that these tariffs violate existing trade agreements. The point is, this could get messy fast. Section 5, the price we pay. Okay, so we've talked about stock markets and international relations, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second. Let's talk about how these big economic policies and decisions trickle down to affect our everyday lives. How could these tariffs potentially impact you? It's a question that might seem distant, but it's closer to home than you might think. Well, the most obvious way is through your wallet. When tariffs are imposed, the cost of importing goods increases, and that cost often gets passed down to you, the consumer. Remember all those European products we talked about earlier? The ones that add a touch of luxury or variety to our lives? Things like cheese, wine, cars? These are not just items on a shelf. They represent a connection to a broader world. Those could all get more expensive if these tariffs go into effect. Imagine going to the store and seeing your favorite cheese or wine suddenly costing significantly more. And it's not just about the direct cost of imported goods. Small businesses which rely on these products will also feel the pinch. When businesses have to pay more for the things they need, those costs often get passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices. It's a chain reaction that starts at the top and works its way down to your pocket. That means everything from a carton of milk to a new pair of shoes could get more expensive. Everyday items that we often take for granted could see a price hike. So, while the Trump administration argues that these tariffs are about protecting American jobs and businesses, the broader picture is more complex. The reality is that they could end up hurting American consumers in the process. Families might find their grocery bills increasing, and individuals could see their purchasing power diminish. This means that households may need to tighten their budgets, cutting back on non-essential items or finding ways to save on everyday expenses. Small businesses might struggle to keep their doors open, leading to potential job losses and a decrease in the variety of products available to consumers. Economic analysts warn that the ripple effects of tariffs can be far-reaching, impacting not just the cost of goods, but also the overall economic health of the country. So as we navigate these complex economic waters, it's important to stay informed and understand how these policies affect our daily lives. The price we pay is not just measured in dollars and cents, but in the quality of life and the choices we have available to us. In the end, being aware of these impacts can help us make better decisions and advocate for policies that truly benefit everyone. Section 6, Trade Wars, Nobody Wins. This whole situation has got a lot of people worried about a potential trade war. Now, I know trade war sounds a bit dramatic, but it basically means countries going back and forth, slapping tariffs on each other's goods.
The problem with trade wars is that nobody wins. Sure, some industries might benefit in the short term, but overall, they tend to hurt economic growth, drive up prices for consumers, and create a lot of uncertainty in the global economy. Remember the Great Depression? Yeah, that was made a whole lot worse by a series of protectionist trade policies, including tariffs. We don't want to repeat those mistakes.
Section 7. Friends, neighbors, and trading partners. Trade isn't just about economics, it's also about relationships. The US and the EU aren't just trading partners, they're allies, friends, and in many cases, family.
We share common values and work together on a whole range of issues, from security to climate change. When we start throwing up barriers to trade, It doesn't just hurt our economies, it also strains those relationships. It creates distrust and makes it harder to cooperate on the things that matter most. So, while the Trump administration might see these tariffs as a way to get a better deal for the US, they need to be careful not to jeopardize our long-standing relationships with our allies in the process.
Section 8. What happens next? So what happens next? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Right now, these tariffs are just a proposal, but things could escalate quickly.
The EU has made it clear they're not going to back down without a fight. They're already talking about retaliatory tariffs and taking the issue to the WTO. Meanwhile, businesses on both sides of the Atlantic are watching nervously, trying to figure out how to plan for a future that suddenly seems a lot more uncertain. The coming weeks and months will be crucial in determining whether we can avoid a full-blown trade war or if we're headed down a path of economic uncertainty and strained relationships.
Section 9. Stay informed, stay engaged. One thing is for sure, this is an issue that affects us all. Whether you're a business owner, a consumer, or just someone who cares about the state of the world, it's important to stay informed about these developments and make your voice heard. Read up on the issue from different perspectives, contact your elected officials, and let them know how you feel. Trade policy might seem complicated, but it has real-world consequences for all of us. And that's the bottom line.